Okay. So in today's lecture, we are going to study various types of transforms that are used in image processing. In previous lecture, we studied about what is need of transformation, and we have also talked about various types of filters that are used in image processing. Okay. So, so let us have a look at two-dimensional transforms. So if we have an image fxy of size m by n, then we can use forward transformation kernel, and we can get forward transformation of image, which is denoted here as FUV. FUV is given by summation 0 to m minus 1, summation 0 to n minus 1, f of xy into g of xyuv, where this g xyuv is known as forward transformation kernel. Okay, and like your m and n, u and v also varies from 0 to m minus 1 and 0 to n minus 1. So after transformation, resultant image size in frequency domain is same as original image size. Okay. So according to this forward transformation kernel GXYUV, we get various types of transforms. Okay. If we consider one dimensional transform, this forward transformation kernel is denoted simply by Gx comma U, because for one dimensional signal there is only one independent variable, that is x, and we transform this x to u axis, that is frequency axis. So for one dimensional transform, this g, instead of this forward transformation kernel, we simply consider g of x comma u. Now in case of DFT, uh, this forward transform one dimensional function is given as shown here, f of x into cos of 2 pi ux by m minus j sine 2 pi ux by m. Okay, so all of you are very familiar with this term, and this has to be summation x runs from 0 to m minus 1. If we consider input vector size as m, this has to be m minus 1. Okay, and this term cos of theta minus j sine theta is nothing but your e raised to minus j theta term. Okay, so we can either write it in exponent format, or we can write it in cos and sine terms. Okay, so this is forward transformation kernel GXU for your discrete Fourier transform. All of you are very well familiar with this, and we multiply your input signal fx with forward transformation kernel GXU. Okay, and then we get the Fourier transform or discrete Fourier transform FU, where u also varies from 0 to m minus 1. Same thing is written here in exponent format. Fu of capital Fu is given by fx into e raised to minus j 2 pi ux by n, and x varies from 0 to m minus 1. Okay. So this is your forward transformation kernel for one dimensional transform. And I think all of you are familiar with this equation. You have already studied it in DSP. Now, like forward transformation kernel, we can have inverse transformation kernel in order to reconstruct the original signal fx. So this inverse transformation kernel is denoted by h of xu, and its equation is as shown here, cos of 2 pi ux by n plus j sine 2 pi ux by m. So for Fourier transform, this inverse transformation kernel is obtained simply by change of this sign. Okay, so for forward transformation, it was minus j theta, and for inverse transformation, it becomes plus j. Okay, so this sign is changed. Okay, So this is HXU or inverse transformation kernel for Fourier transform. We multiply this inverse transformation kernel with FU, that is your Fourier transform, and then we get the original signal Fx. Okay, now same concept is extended for a signal like image. For a two-dimensional signal like image, we can extend this concept. Okay, so for Fourier transform, you can determine magnitude of Fourier transform by this equation. Magnitude Fu is given by square root of real part r square u plus I square u, that is square of imaginary part. Okay, so there is a question that what is m in the inverse transform? See, basically M represents size of your input vector. Okay, so this Fx is your original vector and size of this vector is 0 to m minus 1. Okay, so x index for x is varying from 0 to m minus 1, means your input vector length is m. Okay, and similarly for when your input vector length is m, you get m number of frequency coefficients. So m represents number of frequency coefficients or length of your transformed vector. Manas, is it clear to you? Okay, so here there is correction in this equation. This has to be m and not n. Okay, so please consider n is same as m. It has to be m minus 1 and not n minus 1. Okay, so there is one correction. Replace this n by capital M. And M represents size of your input vector as well as it represents size of your transformed signal. Okay. Okay, so this equation gives you magnitude of the transform, square root of square of addition of square of real part and imaginary part. Okay, similarly, the spatial position information of the image data is encoded as the difference between the coefficients of the real and imaginary data. This difference is called the phase angle, and phase angle phi uv is given as phi uv is equal to tan inverse of imaginary component divided by real component. Okay. Now, what are the properties of Fourier transform? Basically, Fourier transform is complex in nature because it has e raised to minus j theta, means it has cos components and sine terms, cos terms as well as sine terms, and cos term is always at 90-degree angle with sine term. So basically, this Fourier transform kernel is complex in nature, and because of complex nature, it requires large number of computations. Because all of you know that one complex multiplication requires 4 real multiplication terms. So as compared to real transforms, complex transform like discrete Fourier transform, it requires large number of computations. But in spite of this large number of computations, why DFT is popular? Because it gives good energy packing efficiency. Now, what is meaning of energy packing efficiency? After transformation, your signal is packed, or most of the information is packed in very few low frequency coefficients. Okay, so this is meaning of energy packing. So in case of Fourier transform, it gives good energy packing efficiency. So this is one of the advantage of Fourier transform. Okay. Now let us have a look at two-dimensional Fourier transform. Okay. So in case of images, we are going to consider henceforth square images. That is, M is same as N. because computation becomes easy if we consider square size image. So henceforth, we are considering your images are square in nature. That is, M is same as N. Okay. So when M is same as N, we can write Fourier transform FUV as summation x runs from 0 to n minus 1, summation y runs from 0 to n minus 1, f of xy into e raised to minus j 2 pi ux plus vy by n. Okay, so this is equation for two-dimensional discrete Fourier transform. And this term, e raised to minus j 2 pi ux plus vy by n, is nothing but forward transformation kernel for Fourier transform. So your gxyuv is given by this e raised to minus j term. And similarly, we can determine inverse Fourier transform by using this second equation. So it is given by FUV into e raised to j 2 pi ux plus vy by n. So inverse transformation kernel for Fourier transform, discrete Fourier transform, is as shown here. So there is only one difference. This sign is changed. It is e raised to j2 pi. Okay. And when we apply this inverse transformation kernel HXYUV on transform image capital FUV, we can reconstruct the original image F of XY. Okay. So there is one question that what is meaning of XYUV? I'm going bit fast because we studied this in previous lecture. Actually, XY in image plane, XY represents your X coordinate and Y coordinate, right? So X axis and Y axis, according to X coordinate and Y coordinate value, we can locate particular pixel. Okay, and fxy is value of that pixel. So x and y are indices in your image plane or image space, and similar to xy index in image plane, we have uv index in frequency domain. We are transforming image from image plane to Fourier domain, and u and v index represents its equivalent frequency coefficient position along the frequency plane or in the frequency domain. Is it clear, Sharad? X and Y represent your image plane coordinates, and U and V represent your Fourier domain coordinate values. Okay. So these are your forward transformation equation, and this is inverse transformation equation for two-dimensional Fourier transform. Now, as we studied in previous lecture, this kernel, Fourier transform kernel is separable as well as symmetric, because we can separate this e raised to minus j theta term into two separate components, ux by n and e raised to minus j 2 pi vy by n. So as we can separate it, this DFT is separable in nature, and it is symmetric because it uses same functionality for ux and same functionality e raised to minus j is used for vy. That's why your discrete Fourier transform is separable and symmetric. And like one-dimensional transform, we can compute magnitude of FUV and we can compute angle UV as given by these two equations. So magnitude of Fourier transform is obtained by square root of r square UV plus I square UV, and angle phi UV is obtained by tan inverse of IUV divided by RUV, where I represents imaginary component and R represents real component. And we can determine power spectrum for Fourier transform, which is nothing but square of the magnitude. So power spectrum PUV is given by R square UV plus I square UV. Okay. So this Fourier transforms forward transformation kernel is once again indicated here. Gxyuv is 1 upon mn e raised to minus j 2 pi ux by m plus vy by n, and inverse transformation kernel hxyuv is given by e raised to j 2 pi ux by m plus vy by n. Now here we have assumed image size fxy as m by n. And when we say it is, if your m is same as n, it is a square shape image, and m into n will effectively represent n square when your m is same as n. And here you can replace m by n. Okay. For square image, m is same as n. Okay, so these are forward and inverse transformation kernels for discrete Fourier transform of an image. Now the forward kernel is, we have already studied this, so I'm skipping this slide. Okay, so we can separate this forward transformation kernel of Fourier transform into two components, G1 XU and G2 YV. That's why transform is separable, and it is symmetric as G1 XU is same as G2 YV, because both of them are e raised to minus j 2 pi ux by m and e raised to minus j 2 pi vy by n. So your discrete Fourier transform is separable as well as symmetric, and same is true for inverse transformation kernel. For both ux term and vy term, functionality is same. So inverse transformation kernel is also separable and symmetric for discrete Fourier transform. Okay, so here now this, okay, this is separable and symmetric as shown here. G1 XU, G2 Vy, we can separate it into two components, and these are the two components, 1 upon n e raised to minus j 2 pi ux by n, and another component corresponding to Vy is 1 upon n e raised to minus j 2 pi Vy by n, and hence the DFT kernel is separable as well as symmetric. Okay. Now, because of this property, separability and symmetry, we can compute two-dimensional transform by applying one-dimensional transform twice. That's why this property is very important. Okay. So here, a transform with a separable kernel is obtained in two steps, as first taking the one-dimensional transform along each row of fxy. So our fxy is actually two-dimensional signal, but when we consider a single row, it becomes one-dimensional signal. Now we can apply the transform on fxy first along the rows. Okay, so fxy into g2yv. So this is your g2yv. Okay, this is g2yv. We can apply g2yv on fxy. That is, we are applying one-dimensional kernel g2yv on image signal fxy, where y varies from 0 to n minus 1. So for every row in for every column in the image, row numbers are varying from 0 to n minus 1. So that's why here we are applying the transform along the rows, and we are getting partial result TXV. Okay, so we are simply applying the transform row wise, and we are getting partial result TXV. Now on this partial result TXV, now we apply once again one dimensional transform along each column of the image TXV. Okay, so we consider this partial result TXV. Now we apply once again the transform column wise by using transformation kernel G1XU. Actually, G2YV is same as G1XU. GXU because your transform is symmetric. So we can replace these two terms simply by say GXU. Okay. So on this partial transform TXV, we once again apply the transform column wise, and finally we get the complete transform TUV of our original image fxy. So because of separability and symmetry, we can compute two-dimensional transform by applying one-dimensional transform twice. Once we apply it along rows, and then we apply it along columns of the partial result. And then we get the complete transform TUV. Okay. So here, instead of applying first on rows and then on columns, if we change the sequence, doesn't matter. First, we can apply it on columns, then we can apply it on rows. If we change though we change the sequence, we are going to get the same result TUV. That is your discrete Fourier transform of image fxy. Okay. So this is possible because of separability and symmetry property. And now this same operation we can represent in matrix form. Okay. So if the kernel GXYUV is separable and symmetric, we can replace this equation by simple matrix multiplication. This as well as this equation, these two equations we can implement by using this matrix multiplication. So we can obtain transform matrix or resultant TUV. Here capital T represents it is a matrix of size n by n. Okay. So this matrix T is obtained by A into F into A transpose, where A is nothing but your forward transformation kernel, or it is DFT coefficient matrix. Okay. So we can perform this F into A transpose. First, we can perform this F into A transpose, and this is same as your first part, applying Fourier transform along the rows. Okay. So this can be obtained by simple matrix multiplication. Here F is our matrix which represents original image of size n by n, and A transpose is transpose of DFT coefficient matrix, which is also of size n by n. Okay. So by this first multiplication, we apply the transform say row wise. Okay. Then we get some partial result. Okay. So let us denote this partial result by L. Okay. And then we can multiply matrix A with L. Okay. A matrix A, which is again our transform coefficient matrix, DFT coefficient matrix. We multiply it with this partial result A into L to get our final result T. That is discrete Fourier transform of original image. Okay. So we can obtain this DFT by simply using two matrices multiplications. First, we multiply original image F with A transpose, transpose of DFT coefficient matrix. Then we get the partial result L. Okay, we get the partial result L. Then we multiply this partial result with again with DFT coefficient matrix to get final transform of your image F. Okay. So here F is the n by n image matrix and A is n by n symmetric transformation matrix with elements Aij is equal to Gij. That is these elements are obtained using forward transformation kernel GXU. where this forward transformation kernel G xu is given by e raised to minus j 2 pi 2 pi ux by n. Okay. So here this Gij represents your forward transformation kernel, and here say I represents u and j represents x, and u and x both are varying from 0 to n minus 1. So your this matrix A matrix size is also n by n. Here for in order to create this matrix, we need to use this term, which is forward transformation kernel of Fourier transform, and we need to vary u and x from 0 to n minus 1. Okay, so when we vary u and x from 0 to n minus 1, we get matrix A of size n by n, which we can call as forward transformation coefficient matrix for discrete Fourier transform. Okay, and simply by performing these two matrix multiplications, we can determine, we can get forward transform of image f, and it is denoted here as t. So this equation is very important. T is equal to A into F into A transpose. When we perform F into A transpose, we apply the transform row wise, and when we multiply this partial result with matrix A, we get the complete transform T. Okay. And in similar fashion, we can also determine inverse transform, and we can reconstruct original image F simply by two matrices multiplications. So we can get original image F by B into T into B transpose. Here T is Fourier transform of image F and B is inverse of A. A inverse. Now this B you can directly construct by using e raised to plus j theta term. That is e raised to j 2 pi ux by n. Okay. So this B is nothing but inverse of your forward transformation matrix. Okay. So we can reconstruct original image F by using this matrix multiplication B into T into B transpose. Okay. So this one example of this coefficient matrix is as shown here. Say if we consider image size as 5 by 5, that is your n is 5. In that case, your forward transformation kernel is given as shown here. It is denoted here by Wn. Wn is given by e raised to minus j 2 pi n, and complete forward transformation kernel term is given by Wn raised to ux. So here your forward transformation kernel is Wn raised to u into x. Again, here x is index for your original image and u is index for frequency domain image. Okay. Here Wn is nothing but e raised to minus j 2 pi n. And when we consider Wn raised to ux, we get forward transformation kernel Gxu for Fourier transform. Okay. Gxu is given by Wn raised to ux, where Wn is nothing but e raised to minus j 2 pi by m. Okay. Now there is a question why we don't have m here. Now, as I said, we are considering square size images. To make the process simple, we are considering square size images, and here m is same as n. Okay, and then only we can determine Fourier transform in terms of two matrices multiplications. Okay, so we are actually considering one dimensional forward transformation kernel GXU, because now we are computing Fourier transform by applying one dimensional transform twice. Okay, so here instead of m and n, now we are considering simply m. Okay, so your forward transformation kernel is actually e raised to minus j 2 pi by n into ux. So the same is represented here in terms of wn. Okay, so when we write it as wn raised to ux, in order to determine this matrix, we can vary x in the direction as shown by the horizontal arrow. So here we are varying x from 0 to n minus 1. Now if n is 5, here your x is varying at 0, 1, 2, 3 and 4. Okay. And similarly, u is also varying. So u is varying in this direction. U is 0, 1, 2, 3 and 4. Okay. So in order to determine these terms, you can simply put here u and x value. So for very first term, if we look at very first term, u is 0, x is 0. So the term will become wn raised to 0. Similarly, for all the terms in very first row, for all these terms, u is 0. So effectively, it will become wn raised to 0. So here we are getting wn raised to 0. Similarly, if you look at very first column, for very first column, x value is 0. Okay. So as x is 0, u into x, 0 into u, it becomes 0. So all these terms are w0n or wn raised to 0. Now, how we are obtaining these next terms? Let us consider one term here. Now for this location, your u is 1 as well as x is 1. So simply substitute here u as 1, x as 1. So we get this as wn raised to 1. If we move here, next term, here your x is 2. So substitute x as 2, u is 1. So it becomes wn raised to 2. Okay. Similarly, at this position, x is 3. So it becomes u is 1, x is 3. 1 into 3, it is 3. So we are getting w3n and so on. So the same process is used for all next rows. For next row, u value is 2. So substitute u as 2, x as for very first term it is 0, then 1, then 2, 3 and 4. And respectively, you will get these as your uh, coefficient values for this forward transformation kernel. So hope how this matrix is obtained, it's clear to all of you. If you have any query, please type in the chat box. So we have obtained this simply by substituting respective u and x values for these various positions. So when your n is 5, we get matrix as shown here. It is denoted as W5, which is your DFT coefficient matrix. Okay. And for all first row and first column terms, power is 0. For first row, it is 1, 2, 3, 4. Second row, it is 2, 4, 6, 8, and so on. Okay. Now, if your image size is 4, what is matrix size obtained? If your image size is 4, your u and x both will vary from 0 to 3. And in effectively, what is your coefficient matrix size? DFT matrix size, forward transform coefficient matrix size will be 4 by 4. Because if your image size is 4, your x is varying from 0 to 3, means there are 4 rows and 4 columns. and your U also varies from 0 to 3. So this matrix size will be W4. Now I request all of you to determine matrix W4 by using this equation. Okay, substitute value of W as shown here and determine this 4 by 4 matrix for DFT forward transformation kernel and type your very first row of result in the chat box. Okay, use this equation, substitute n as 4 in this equation because we are considering image size as 4. Okay, then vary u and x from 0 to 3 and determine very first row. Are you getting this? Okay, I'm expecting answers from your side. Okay. Now let us consider one numerical. Find the DFT of the following sequence using the matrix form and verify whether DFT works correctly. Okay, so your input sequence X is given as 1, 2, 8, 9. Okay, now in order to determine its DFT by matrix multiplication method, we need to determine this matrix where n is 4. Why we have considered n as 4? Because our input signal X size, if you check the length, there are 4 samples, 1, 2, 8 and 9. Okay. Now, as there are 4 samples here, M or N is 4. Okay. So, we need to determine this matrix W4. Okay. W4 which has size 4 by 4. And in order to determine this matrix, so as shown here, we need to determine W4. Okay, so for determining W4, first we can determine this omega term or W term as e raised to minus 2 pi j by 4. Okay, so this becomes e raised to, this 2 is cancelled, e raised to minus pi j by 2, which is nothing but cos of minus pi by 2 plus j sine minus pi by 2, and effectively this W term is minus j. Now in this equation, substitute Wn as minus j and first row becomes minus j raised to 0, all the components. Now go for second row. First row is always 1 because minus j raised to 0 results in 1. So you will get first row as 1, 1, 1, 1. Now in order to determine second row, your first element is minus j raised to 0. Second element is minus j raised to 1. So minus j raised to 1, that is minus j. Then next is minus j raised to 2. So that is minus j square, minus j itself is minus 1. So you get here minus 1. Minus j itself is square root of minus 1. So my square root of minus 1 square will be minus 1. And this is minus j raised to 3 will be j. Okay. So this is your first row. Then this is your second row, 1 minus j raised to 2 minus j raised to 3. Third row will be 1 minus j square minus j raised to 4 minus j raised to 6. And last row will be 1 minus j raised to 3 minus j raised to 6 and minus j raised to 9. So effectively, you will get this as your transform coefficient matrix. Okay, so minus j square is nothing but minus 1 and minus j cube is nothing but square root of minus 1. That is your j term. Okay, so for every even power of minus j, you will get 1 or minus 1 depending on what is the power. Okay, so your third row is 1 minus 1, 1 minus 1. And last row is minus j raised to 3, then minus j raised to 6, minus j raised to 9. So effectively, you will get 1j minus 1 minus j. Very good. Sharon has answered all the rows correctly. Okay, so hope all other students, all of you are getting this. Okay, so this is your forward transform coefficient matrix when capital N is 4, N or M is 4, or when the input vector size is 4. Okay, now we have to simply use matrix multiplication method. So we can obtain it by this. We can determine F as your forward transform matrix F multiplied by input signal X transpose, or we can obtain it by X multiplied by F transpose. Both methods are correct because we are determining forward transformation of this vector. Okay, basically we need to follow the matrix multiplication rule. That is, number of columns from first matrix must be same as number of rows from second matrix. Yes, Sharon, your answer is correct. So how we perform matrix multiplication? So this first row multiplied by this column. So 1 into 1, 1 into 2, 1 into 8 plus 1 into 9. This is your very first coefficient. For second element, multiply this second row again with the same column. That is your input sequence. 1 into 1 minus plus minus j into 2 plus minus 1 into 8 plus j into 9. This is your second coefficient of Fourier transform. That becomes 1 plus 8, 1 minus 8, that is minus 7, and minus 2j plus 9j, that is plus 7j. Yes. So say, your second answer is minus 7 plus 7j. Similarly, you can determine third coefficient by multiplying this third row with this column. 1 into 1 minus 1 into 2 plus 1 into 8 plus minus 1 into 9. So it will be again a real number. And last coefficient, that is fourth coefficient, you can determine by multiplying last row by this column. So again, last coefficient is complex term because it has real part as well as j terms. Okay, so this is your final answer. So Sharon Mahek has given all answers correctly. Also, Sharon, your answers are correct. Very good. Okay, so this is your transform of input image. So simply after this result, you need to consider transpose of this result matrix as your final answers. Final answer, because your input is a row vector, so your result is also a row vector. You need to take transpose of this so that you can get final answer as a row. Okay. So Fourier transform f of the given sequence x is 20 comma minus 7 plus 7j comma minus 2 comma minus 7 minus 7j. Okay. Okay. So similarly, we can obtain inverse DFT. Now for inverse DFT, we need to consider inverse of this matrix. Okay. Now, because of separability, because your inverse transformation kernel is similar to forward transform, except sign difference, we can easily determine inverse from this matrix. So this is your inverse transform coefficient matrix. We can obtain it simply by changing the signs of imaginary term. All real terms from this matrix remain same because your equation is same except the sign change. Instead of minus j, now we have plus j. So from this matrix, we can simply invert the signs of j terms. This minus j will become plus j, j will become minus j, this j will become minus j, and this minus j will become plus j, because your term is e raised to j 2 pi by 4. That's why we can obtain this inverse transform matrix easily. Okay, so here your fx is 1 by 4 into, this is your inverse transform coefficient matrix, and this is multiplied by the inverse. Okay, so this is your inverse data, and we can prove that DFT works by determining inverse transform. If we get the original sequence, we can say that DFT works for this signal. Okay, so consider this as your input and apply inverse transform. So applying inverse transform means multiplying your uh, transform coefficients with this W inverse matrix. Okay. So if you perform this multiplication, you will get the same result as 1289. Please verify that whether you are getting the same result. Please do it. Please perform this matrix multiplication and verify that you are getting the original sequence 1289. Okay. Now, let me check how much time is left. Okay, so let us have a look at one more transform. So as I said, this or all of you know, discrete Fourier transform has real part as well as imaginary part, right? Because there is e raised to minus j theta term. It has cos components as well as sine components. So there is one drawback with DFT, as this is complex in nature. uh, we need large number of computations, because every when we perform complex number multiplication, one multiplication, it is equivalent to 4 real multiplications. So in order to reduce number of computations, can we have a transform which is similar to DFT, but it is real in nature? Okay, so yes, there is another transform, and this transform is discrete cosine transform. So as the name indicates, the name is cosine transform. Why? Because it simply has cos terms, okay? And it doesn't have sine terms. There is no e raised to minus j term. That's why there are only cos terms, and as there are only cos terms, these cos terms are always cos terms indicate in phase components, and hence this discrete cosine transform is real in nature. So for discrete cosine transform of images, forward transformation kernel GXYUV is given as shown here. This forward transformation kernel GXYUV is given by alpha u into alpha v into cos of 2x plus 1 u pi by 2m into cos of 2y plus 1 v pi by 2n. Again, here m and n represent size of image. Okay, so your x coordinate varies from 0 to m minus 1, and y coordinate varies from 0 to n minus 1. Okay, so here m and n represents image size, f of size of fxy. Okay, and xy is used to represent location of a pixel. Okay, so x and y indicate spatial location of the pixels, and similarly u and v indicate frequency axis or location of frequency coefficients in the transform domain image. Okay, so this forward transformation kernel for discrete cosine transform is as shown here. And here alpha u and alpha u is equal to alpha v is given by square root of 1 upon m, where when u is 0, for u is equal to 0, this value is square root of 1 by m or square root of 1 by n. Okay. And when u is not equal to 0, that is when your u is in the range 1 to m minus 1 or v is in the range 1 to n minus 1, this alpha u or alpha v is given by square root of 2 by m. Okay. So this is your forward transformation kernel for DCT. Now, one important property of DCT is that its forward transformation kernel is exactly identical to inverse transformation kernel. So HXYUV is also given by the same equation. This was not the case with Fourier transform. In case of Fourier transform, forward transformation kernel was e raised to minus j theta, and inverse transformation kernel was e raised to plus j theta. Whereas for discrete cosine transform, forward transformation kernel is exactly identical to inverse transformation kernel. So this is forward transformation kernel for as well as inverse transformation kernel for discrete cosine transform. Now tell me whether this kernel is separable. Please type your answer in the chat box. Is the kernel separable? Can you separate UX components from VY components? Yes, the kernel is separable because we can easily write this as alpha u into cos of 2x plus 1 u pi by 2m as gxu. We can combine these two terms, alpha u and cos of 2x plus 1 u pi by 2m. So this becomes our gxu, right? And we can, so this is our g1xu, and we can combine these two terms, alpha v into cos of 2y plus 1 v pi by 2n. That becomes our g2yv. Okay. And we can, hence we can say that this forward transformation kernel is separable, g1xu into g2yv, where g1xu is alpha u into cos of 2x plus 1 u pi by 2m, and g2yv is alpha v into cos of 2y plus 1 v pi by 2n. Now, as we can separate it into two terms, we can say DCT kernel is separable. And now tell me, answer my next question. Is it symmetric? Are these two functionalities are similar? G1XU and G2YV? Yes. These two functionalities are similar. Both of them have alpha U term, which is identical to alpha V. And there is cos term 2x plus 1 u pi by 2m. Here, this term 2y plus 1 v pi by 2n is exactly similar to this xu term. So for DCT, its forward transformation kernel is separable and it is symmetric because these two functionalities are same. So we can simply write it as GXU. Instead of G1 and G2, we can call it as GXU because both these functionalities are same. Okay. So we talked about two important properties of DCT. So DCT is separable as well as symmetric. And as compared to Fourier transform, what are advantages of DCT? First advantage is DCT forward transformation kernel is identical to inverse transformation kernel. This is one advantage. Secondly, um, for DCT, there are only cost terms. So it is real transformation, and hence here computation, number of computations required are very less as compared to DFT. Okay. So these are some important properties of DCT. It has same inverse and forward transformation kernel, and though it is real transform, it is simpler than DCT. It shows very good energy packing efficiency, and that's why DCT is very useful for image compression. It packs the energy, or it packs the information in very few frequency coefficients. Okay. And it is relatively simpler because it is a real transform. Okay. It is simple for implementation, and number of computations is very less as compared to DFT, because this is a real transform. Okay, so in order to conclude, in today's lecture, we have studied DFT and DCT. In next lecture, we are going to